I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zives Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Arcane Mark.
Welcome. Gift of Gabby is asking how we're doing today.
I'm doing well, thank you.
I'm doing well too. How about you? How about you, everybody? We're going to be building a chase today. That is one of the subsystems in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It is a victory point subsystem. So those are found in the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Game Mastery Guide. So for all of you who are new to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, Pathfinder 2e has a lot of ways that, other than combat, that can help you build interesting sort of non-combat encounter style challenges for everything from like influencing nobles at a party to get them to like go your way to heists, and in this case a chase. Now victory point subsystems are something that is going to be a little familiar to you if you've played like, there are lots of other games that do something similar to this. That they might look in different ways. For example, Powered by Apocalypse or Blades in the Dark have clocks that go around that are basically the same as just gathering up points until the, in this case for the clock, they sort of spin around the clock until it fills up. So, oh, Leshybot finally leshed.
There we go.
Just after we leshed. Alright, so in the case of chases, the way that this works, and I'll talk a little bit about victory point subsystems in general, of which chases are one. Are there just some kind of subsystem where you're doing something and you're gaining points? Typically, the formula for gaining points is that you'll try to do some kind of checks, and on a success you gain a point, and on a critical success you gain 2 points, and on a failure you do not gain a point, and on a critical failure you actually lose a point. That's fairly typical.
Yeah, and one of the things with that then is that you'll often have the group working together and multiple PCs are rolling and their effects all come together. So victory point systems are good for when you want to represent something that's more complex than just one PC rolls and that they succeed or fail.
Right. And they're also a lot better than just having everyone roll and see if someone succeeds, because in those cases you either have to make the DC so high that it's just like, it feels like you're just rolling for a very high number on the die, or just it's basically an auto success because when you roll that many times, somebody's going to get it. So subsystems work really well because it gives you a feeling of teamwork, working together. You can have different skills that matter so that everybody gets some time in the spotlight. And in the case of any victory point subsystem, you need a name for your points, and you need to know what they represent. So in a chase, you're going to have chase points, which represent your ability to overcome obstacles that are in your way during the chase and to continue moving forward through the chase.
Now, for a chase, one of the main things that you'll want to figure out for a chase is, are you the one doing the chasing or are you the one being chased?
That's right.
Because it works for both.
They essentially, we're not going to have to make almost any changes to how we structure the chase based on that, but it matters in terms of like the story of what's happening. So as we do that, let's actually start with a concept, which could include whether you're chasing or being chased. Let's start with the concept for this chase. The concept probably should include something like, you know, like where we are. Like, is a Tyrannosaurus Rex chasing us through the jungle? Are we chasing after thieves who are stealing the crown jewels through the palace? What is our concept for the chase? So type in concepts for the chase in chat, and then we'll have a vote for which concept to pick. That will help us determine the level, which we will do after we know what the concept is, because, well, some concepts would have different levels. Okay, so
being chased through a fairy forest by a huge giant.
Okay.
Awesome.
That is our first one, is chased through a fairy forest by a huge giant. So that one, we would be the ones being chased. But either way, chase works very similarly. The difference is that the giant is behind us. And in that case, we can decide what happens if we don't run fast enough. Like whether the giant is going to deal us some damage and we just keep going, or whether we stop and fight the giant. There's a lot of options that we can have. Let's see if anyone else has any ideas for a concept for a chase. with a lot of these workshops, we like to start with a concept. We can use a top-down design where we start with a concept and then from there we build out to determine what happens. So another fairy one, you're chasing a kleptomaniac fairy that just pickpocketed the wizard's spellbook.
Chasing? Very cool. People are in a fairy mood today. That pickpocketed the wizard's spellbook.
So the next one is trying to escape a collapsing demiplane.
Cool. Trying to escape a collapsing demiplane.
Alright, so being chased by an infestation of yellow musk creepers.
Being chased by an infestation.
Or I guess yellow musk zombies. The creeper is the name of...
musk zombies.
The creeper is the name of the actual plant. Because they were mentioning the zombies that are made by the plants that turn you into zombies.
Chase something that stole a... Is there an idea before chase something that stole a cookbook?
It was just Tony saying he was late.
Small island.
Yep. The next is chase an evil dragon while riding hippogriffs and griffins and escaping an erupting volcano.
Dragon.
So that one, you're both being chased by the lava and chasing the dragon.
Dragon while... Okay, chase evil dragon while riding...
Hippogriffs and griffins while escaping an erupting volcano.
Over the top. I love it. A hippogriffs... and griffins?
Yeah, while escaping an erupting volcano. And then Tony got bingoed because Sheppy's included the volcano flying away. So
while escaping
Tony's was more like Aladdin.
Erupting volcano.
Alright, Dialect Reject suggests playing the Benny Hill theme. Alright. So, if anyone has any more concepts, you could type them in. Otherwise, I think we have, what, like 6?
There's 6, yeah.
So vote for your favorite one of these 6 concepts.
Boop.
By put in a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 into the chat. And that is what we are going to do.
Alrighty, we got a 1.
We sure do. Let's see which of these chases we're going to build. We got 2 that are going for 4 for the yellow musk zombies.
A 3
for the...
2 3s and a 6.
2 3s for the collapsing demiplane. A 6 for the evil dragon riding while riding hippogriffs and griffins and escaping an erupting volcano. Gift of Gabby's top 3 are 2, 3, and 4. We've got another 3.
3.
3. Another 3 from Sheppy. So I think we're going to do 3.
Yeah, 3 looks like it's got
We're going to escape from a collapsing demiplane.
All right.
Okay. So this is why the cool thing about chases is that may not sound like a chase, but in essence, a chase works for anything where you are trying to go somewhere and something else is happening behind you that might catch up to you. Like those, all those levels of old side-scroller video games where like something is coming from behind you. You just have to keep moving. Those are a chase. Or where you're trying to go towards something quickly.
I think, chased by hazards.
Yes, bingo,
totally.
Philip. That's exactly right. In this case, hazards and the collapsing demiplane itself is what's chasing us. Absolutely. So, now we need to decide what level this chase is going to be. Now that we know that it's a collapsing demiplane, we can... there's still a wide range of levels that this chase can be for.
Mm-hmm.
But it does tell us it's probably not like level 1 that we're going to be at a collapsing demiplane. That doesn't really make sense. And, like, maybe it's not the super highest levels because we might have some kind of weird shenanigans we can use to escape the demiplane using our ultra super... Oh, yeah, I used wish to wish that we weren't in the demiplane.
Yeah. All right, looks like we have a level 6 or 7.
So put in what level you think it is into the chat, and we will use that to determine the level of this demiplane chase. That will determine, like, what sorts of consequences, how dangerous this is, what sorts of hazards we're going to come up with.
10, 10, 11.
Yes.
11.
10, 10, 11, 11, 6, 7, 6. So, that is looking like it's around, it's looking like it's around 9.
9, yeah.
I think. 10 here is the median, but also
there's some 6s.
the 6s are a lot lower than 10. So let's go with level 9, a number that pleases no one, but compromises with everyone.
All right. So we've got a level 9 chase.
Yes, it's a level 9 chase. The PCs have just gotten their 5th level spells, and that's true, Rico. They definitely might have an ability to fly. It's even not their highest level spell. So we're level 9. We're trying to escape a collapsing demiplane. Perhaps we just went through a dungeon in the demiplane and then we grabbed the artifact we were looking for, and it turned out that was the linchpin of the demiplane. Now the demiplane is collapsing. Whatever the case, we now have a collapsing demiplane. So in this chase, our goal is to escape before the demiplane collapses behind us. That tells us a lot about what's going on. For one thing, what is happening behind us is that the demiplane is collapsing. So that probably means that if we are not fast enough at doing this chase, that the collapsing demiplane causes some kind of temporal rifts, or even just following objects of things that are collapsing from the demiplane, and would deal damage to our party. Probably every time we fail to advance and the collapse sort of is catching up behind us, we probably wind up taking an increasing amount of damage. And if we fail enough times to if we fall behind the collapse enough times, then we probably are going to just sort of get sucked into a void and get trapped on the astral plane or something.
Yeah, I was going to say we're going to get spit out at that point.
Yeah, we'll get spit out wherever the demiplane was embedded.
Onto
the astral, the ethereal, somewhere else.
The astral or astral plane, ethereal, because they're usually on the astral, ethereal.
And Elf is uh-oh, stuck on the astral plane is never fun.
Wherever else the demiplane is embedded. Sweet.
Yep. So I'm thinking that since we're level 9, that probably what happens is that, let's see, what is an unlimited area damage for level 9? Is that 5d6?
That sounds...
That's just off the top of my head.
About right.
Let's see if that's correct.
It's probably 5 or maybe 4.
It is 5d6.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You got it.
But we want to give the idea of, the creeping decay of the demiplane. So, maybe we'll start at 4d6, and then it goes up, 46, then 66, then 86. Let me make sure that's not just death, for everybody. So, that's 14... Or I guess that averages out to 60 some damage. So you'll probably be alive from that with your party members, and then on maybe after that on the 4th time you're just dumped into the astral plane.
And then the ejection shouldn't do damage at that point.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't do damage. So that is what is gonna happen if we. That is the consequence if we are not fast enough at escaping. So, now let's explain how a chase actually works. The way a chase works, and is abstracted in Pathfinder 2's chase subsystem, is that instead of just putting out a battle map that just goes out a really, really long distance and then being well, let's see what your movement speed is, the party is trying to escape together. It's generally assumed that if nothing got in your way and you were just kind of running and that was it, that you would get away. The GM didn't set it up being well, the dwarf is pretty slow at moving, and so no matter what you do, you automatically fail because the dwarf doesn't have enough speed.
Someone suggested banishment. There's a little line in banishment that's going to cause a problem with that.
Don't you have to be on your home plane?
The spell fails if you aren't on your home plane when you cast it.
Now, if one of the PC's home plane is the demiplane, first of all, they're in big trouble because their home plane is collapsing.
Disintegrating, yes.
But the rest of the party is going. If that person happens to be a spellcaster who put banishment in their top level slots, then they're in good shape.
Yes.
Or they are not in good shape, but everyone else is.
They're losing their home plane, but they can get everyone else out, yes.
Yes. So, we're doing a chase. It's assumed that the GM has not, like, set something up that if there was nothing in your way, you still wouldn't make it and that you're doomed. So, but then what makes a chase interesting? What is the challenge of the chase? The challenge is that nothing that you would be running through or running from is just an uninteresting, boring, featureless plane. Yes. Especially a collapsing demiplane. Not only could there be things that were in this demiplane, there could be just about anything because it's demiplane,
but things that came from elsewhere as it's starting to
due to the failures, things from elsewhere, hazardous, weird situations that didn't come from elsewhere or the demiplane, but that are only happening because of the collapse where, like, reality distorts itself.
Yeah, magical malfunctions on a grand scale, yes.
Exactly. So, collapsing demiplane gives us tons of things to work with in terms of these. They're called obstacles in a chase subsystem. So, basically, the story of the chase we're telling is made up, it's kind of like a flow chart, okay? And the flow chart has a bunch of obstacles that you move between. Now, Paizo sells something called the chase deck that is a great way to visualize this and can allow you to create random chases at home without needing to do a build a chase workshop. Now, it's not going to give you a collapsing demiplane. It'll have, like, forests and dungeons and urban and simple areas that you would expect to have, and just some ideas for obstacles that might be in your way. But it is a cool project that Logan Bonner did a lot of the work on that one. It helps you visualize the flowchart too. So consider, even if you, since we're not going to use the chase deck for this, we're making our own. You could, though, create, like, little note cards or something like that, and then have the PCs move, like, a mini of their characters onto the one to show which obstacle they've made it through if you want people to see how far they've come, what they've made it through, what they still have to do to get out.
And where and you can also have, like, a thing for the creeping thing that's coming behind them to show how close it is.
Mm-hmm. And Rico's like, Mark and Linda are like, of course we've had to deal with people trying to use banishment to solve problems. I mean, look, Linda has had that to deal with. Linda has had to deal with that. In fact, that's why banishment has that line. It's not that we've had to deal with it, and therefore Linda knows that the line is in there. It's that the line is in there because people using banishment as a fast travel was
a thing.
I wouldn't say common in Linda's campaign, but it was definitely something that happened.
Yes.
And it happened in an area where, like, conjuration teleportation effects didn't work. But our party used banishment to escape because it's an abjuration. So Linda was like, what? And, that happened multiple times.
Yes.
In Linda's campaign. And so therefore, in Pathfinder 2, those were Pathfinder 1E. So therefore, in Pathfinder 2E, banishment is like, it actually is for banishing people from your home. It's not
for banishing yourself back to...
banishing yourself back home. Obstacles and DCs. We're going to come up with some obstacles that we have to get through to escape from the demiplane. So let's see what we've got here. You can come up with ideas and put them in chat for a basic obstacle. Just, like, describe sort of what it's like.
And all right, we've got athletics check to
leap over a rushing river of. Let's not make it Shoggoths because we picked level 9, but we could just say it's something similar. Like, so it's like interdimensional oozes.
Of interdimensional oozes.
So let's go with that one, and while other people are coming up with ideas in chat, we will flesh this one out. So there is a rushing river of interdimensional oozes. So we want to give them multiple options to get through the chase.
We know one.
I think that athletics to leap over the river was even suggested by Philip, but I would say occultism to navigate the oozes.
Yes.
Is the other one, because these are interdimensional oozes, and so based on occultism, you might be able to navigate them. So a rushing river full of something as big as a Shoggoth, I'm imagining that is not being very easy to jump over.
Yes.
But I would think that if you know how to deal with them with occultism, it might be a bit easier.
Yeah.
So now, very, very important. With a lot of things that are not a chase, you might be tempted to be like, oh, well, we'll start with the standard DC for our level, and we'll go to hard or very hard for the hard one.
Yeah.
With a chase, everybody's going to be forced to do one of these.
Yes.
So you probably don't want to go much harder than the average. And you probably want to make the ones you think are easier actually be easier. That is just from me as having built chases, setting difficulties, seeing how they work out in play. I recommend that the only time you would want to go harder than the average is if one of them was like perception or like a saving throw.
Something that everybody's gonna have, and you want to have other options too. Yeah.
Right, and you think it shouldn't be the easier option because everybody's got those, at least to some degree. Whereas you don't even know that everyone in the party has either athletics or occultism, and you're gonna have to carry the weight of the people who don't have it.
Yeah.
This is because in chases, we are trying to get a number of successes equal to the number of people in our party. That means if there's someone who doesn't have any of the skills, they're almost destined to fail. They might even critically fail and get us a negative. And so, and if they don't roll, they do give us a negative. So we're going to need to have some people who have a chance to critically succeed and get us 2 if that's going to happen.
Yeah, a number of points equal to the number in the party is like a very standard number. You could choose to make a different number if you wanted to.
You could choose to make a different number if you wanted to. However, in a situation of a chase, I believe that chase points are typically 1 per member. Because of the fact that the idea is that represents being able to get that party member across things. The more people you have in your group, the harder it is as a group to make sure everyone gets across.
Yeah, 1 per party is pretty standard. You may have a particularly challenging obstacle that requires more, but the standard is 1 per.
Yes, that's correct. It could be a multiplier on it. It'll almost never be less than 1 per in a chase.
Yeah.
Now, there are some subsystems, actually maybe many, where the difficulties might be harder and you would need fewer than 1 per character to succeed. That's a different way to do it. But with chases, because the story and the abstraction is that each chase point represents getting a character past. Now, and as Linda said, a hard obstacle might require multiple per character to get them past. But you're never going to really do like a number that's divorced from the number of characters in a chase. In influence, you totally can. In fact, they often are just something else. So anyway, for these difficulties, let's say that the athletics
is the standard one.
Since the standard is 26, I think, and we're talking about jumping a certain distance. Let's say 25. We'll make it like a simple DC.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Like a very easy master DC, since we're level 9. Which is also 1 lower than the standard DC for level 9. But then we can make it so that the occultism on this one is only 21. A very easy level 9 DC.
Sweet. We've had a lot more ideas pop up in the here.
Yes, great.
So let's go ahead.
Let's go back to these ideas.
Let's see. Is our next one? Tumble under a falling 300-foot goblin.
There we go. So there's a falling
300-foot goblin. So we know that one of our things is going to be acrobatics.
Acrobatics, and the other thing is probably going to be like, let's see. So we could say like a reflex save. But it is true that acrobatics and reflex save are both things that a dexterity-based person would be good at. Now, obviously, not everybody's trained in acrobatics, and everybody is trained in reflex save because it's a reflex save. So we could think about other possible things that we can do here.
So there's dodging out of the way. Maybe like there's also something about finding like a place where you can like a low ground where you can like lie down in when the goblin falls, so you don't get crushed, and then you can come out of.
So,
or doing something to distort the demiplane to create a little pocket for yourself to not.
So what if it's a falling 300-foot goblin statue that's sort of like it's a statue that's made out of like the fact that a goblin just seems to be like frozen in time or in space and is just falling through the air, and you're using crafting to try to figure out how that falling goblin statue and the demiplane's geometry are going to interact so that you can find places that are safe. Yeah. Now, my question is, maybe we should replace the acrobatics with reflex save. Just for the same thing that you're tumbling through it, but it's more of a reflex save because something's falling on you
Oh, yeah, that
rather
makes
than
sense.
you actively doing
it's definitely a dex-based thing. Reflex
Yes.
save.
So let's say that the reflex save is going to be a difficulty 26, whereas the crafting check can be a 21 again. Let's take
Sweet.
a look at a different the next one after that, which is there's a gravity sputter. The artificial well of gravity keeping things on the ground in the demiplane is sputtering, causing you to possibly go into zero grav or other gravity situations.
Oh, cool.
So, that is cool. That one I feel like is acrobatics because you want to keep your balance and like move well. With the gravity sputtering is going to be one of the two things that you have. The question is, what would another skill be to sort of understand a gravity sputter? Would that be like Arcana?
Yeah, I could see that.
So let's do acrobatics and Arcana.
I just saw swim through the door.
Swim through the door. Oh no, it's Merchant's Wake. It's Merchant's Wake all over again. Deep cut, deep cut. So let's say that we're gonna do an acrobatics that is going to be acrobatics 26.
Mm-hmm.
But the Arcana might be a little easier. Let's go with 24 for the Arcana. This one just overall is a harder hazard than the other ones because gravity sputter seems pretty nasty.
All right, next we have navigate a teleport maze due to fractured reality.
Wait, I also saw a will save agonist hem that dazes you if you feel.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, what does that mean? A will save agonist hem that dazes you if you feel? Because those are that feels like an autocorrect. Because agonist and hem are technically words, but agonist is a very obscure word. So I'm guessing that it is an autocorrect situation. So let's come back to that and let Gift of Gabby tell us, or just be like, no, it is an agonist ham.
And then tell us what that means.
Tell us what they mean there. So we will go to the teleport maze from Fractured Reality. So when we're going to be navigating a teleport maze, that feels like something where we would probably want either like perception,
survival, probably.
Or maybe survival. I could see one of the two, perception or survival, probably not both, and then a sort of magic-y one.
Oh, against a gem.
Oh, against a gem. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So let's finish off this one and then go to against a gem. What do you think, survival or perception for the one that is about like the mundane navigation for the teleport maze?
I think survival because perception's easier to throw on something than survival is.
Okay. So,
particularly in a weird place like this.
Let's do survival, and we'll say that in this case, survival is 24.
Mm-hmm.
It's slightly easier to use, but you might be able to figure it out just from the Arcana, but that one is 26. So again, the teleport maze is probably pretty complicated here. It sounds like it's a whole maze created out of Fractured Reality. So now here there's a gem that is so shiny that it might distract you. Linda, that almost feels like an obstacle you have recently, well, within the last year written in something. But yes, absolutely. So one of these will be will save. DC, let's say just DC 26.
26 will
and
save
then the other one
resist the gem's temptation.
The other one would be maybe being able to identify the gem in advance so that you know not to deal with it, or like figuring out what the gem was, or so probably since it's a magic gem, maybe it's occultism.
Yeah, because we have two
occultism for like
in mind too.
Understanding about the mental effects. Occultism has a lot of mentalism things in it, so we can use occultism DC 20. Well, let's just make this one 23. We didn't do.
We haven't done 23 yet. Yeah.
I'm just picking numbers at random. If anyone could test, that's fine. We can do something else. Okay, so Shadow 771113 says cracked ground that looks and feels like thin ice, even though it's regular ground, and it could make you fall into deep pits. So we could pick 2 from acrobatics, survival, and nature is their suggestion for this one. Also, we can have 3 ways. So we can have 3 approaches if we want to, but we have to describe each approach slightly. So we don't just put the skill like Linda's been doing. We would like use this skill to do this.
I'm actually not just putting the skill. I'm putting descriptions.
No, so, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you've been doing, we're not just putting the skill. That's what I'm telling them, that you're not just putting the skill.
So, like, for example, Shiny Gem says DC 26 will save to resist the gem's temptation, DC 23 occultism to understand the mental effects.
Like you've been doing, we need to not just put the skill. They suggest, let's show that we can do 3. So we'll have acrobatics, survival, or nature for this. So the acrobatics is to balance across the thin ice. I feel like that one is the hardest one because you're just going to deal with it. So that's 26.
Survival maybe to predict the crack patterns?
Yeah, survival is going to predict the crack patterns. And that's going to be probably the best one because you know where the patterns are going. So that will make that one 21.
Mm-hmm.
And then nature is going to be to understand the nature of the the ice ground, and that could be 24, somewhere in between. And Kitsune Warlock says they just want an excuse to use the giant goblin statue from WizKids on a battle map about making the 300-foot goblin into a statue. I did think of that.
So I'm noticing one thing. We have a fair bit. We have athletics, acrobatics, occultism. We have a little bit of survival as well, and acrobatics. I'm wondering if and a little bit of crafting. One of the things that I like to do once you get a little farther into the sort of chase scheming idea is to take a look at what skills haven't shown up and use those as an inspiration for additional ideas.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great idea. So want me to look at the list of all skills?
Yeah.
So here's ones that we've not used. Also, I feel like that the ability score charisma has not been used at all. Right. So, I mean, it's going to be tougher, but maybe, like, they're guardians of the place or, like, some kind of place spirit that we can talk to or something like that.
Yeah.
So we have used acrobatics, we've used arcana, we've used athletics, we've used crafting. We've not used, as I even said, deception, diplomacy, intimidation. Lore is just something the GM can decide on a case-by-case basis.
We don't need to put that in here yet.
We have not used medicine and probably won't in a chase.
Yeah.
We've used nature, we've used occultism, we've not used performance, it's another charisma skill. We've not used religion, we've not used society. We probably won't use society in this. We've not used stealth. We have used survival. We've not used thievery. So I feel like of these, thievery is going to be the easiest one because there could be something that's locked to use. And I feel like
we could use something that uses
I feel like medicine and society just aren't going to happen unless we make it really weird. But we could. I feel like stealth is also not too hard to use. Religion we definitely could potentially use just because when you're on the plains, things shifting in that are religion-based could happen. And the charisma ones, we're going to be dealing with something that's like the guardians or denizens or something like that, and like intimidate to get them to move out of the way, or diplomacy to convince them to help us or something like that. I think we could potentially do that. Could have performance where we have to like use music theory or musical things to like
understand,
create a harmonic resonance with something. Or to understand something that is based on making weird musical tones that indicate like the way that the demiplane is fractured.
So there's like, convince a psychic ooze to let you pass.
There you go. So yes, let's go with that. So we're going to try to convince a psychic ooze to let us pass. That's either going to be a diplomacy, which is going to be the easier one because that we're just trying to convince a psychic ooze to let us pass. We'll say that is a 21 DC, or maybe a perception to sort of understand what the psychic ooze is thinking. It's kind of like a sense motive style perception, and then therefore we know how to say the right things to get past it. Or wait, actually no. I've changed my mind. Stealth. Haven't used it yet, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or stealth to sneak past the
We can
psychic
have both
ooze.
of them.
Oh yeah, we can put that all in there. So
Yeah.
let's make the perception really hard because that seems challenging. Let's make it 28.
Yeah, to understand the thought process of a psychic ooze, and also because we have 3 options here, that makes it it's easier to throw.
And we'll put in stealth to sneak past it, and we can make that 26.
Yeah, sounds good.
So that's what we've got here. And the ooze might want you to help them escape too.
Convince them to work together to escape. All right, I have altered the terms of the diplomacy to say to convince them to work together to escape.
We will assume that if you convince the ooze to come with you, that it deals with its own chase points after that, so it doesn't add the number of chase. It'll always get 1, so that you don't have to get more chase points to get the ooze out or whatever. But yeah, sure, absolutely. So that let us use stealth and diplomacy. So we now have used the charisma-based skill. Obviously,
now, I am going to go ahead and call out that this is a perception to sense motive here.
Yes,
because now we know what the use is, and people may have specific things that work with it.
That is smart. You should always do that. Just like on the acrobatics, when you're trying to balance on the thin ice.
It's acrobatics to capital B balance.
To be balanced, because you might have an ability that makes you better at balancing.
Yeah, there may be... There may be other ones in here that I didn't fully cite when I was doing
That's part of the reason why you have to describe what's happening and not just put difficulties and then no explanation, is because some characters are going to have abilities that make them better at certain uses but not others. Like there's that one dwarf heritage where it's like you're blessed by the god of honesty, so you have a huge bonus on sense motive but a huge penalty on like lying.
Yes. It just makes it easier for the GM to plug it into the rules and how things are going to interact.
So there we go. How many obstacles is that? This is probably a good amount.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 obstacles.
I mean, 7's probably good.
Yeah, and we found a way to use charisma skills and stealth and perception in here, which we hadn't had.
We totally used charisma skills and stealth and perception. And we could keep going. We could do something that used a fortitude save if we wanted to. We could do some of the other skills. It's easy to use thievery, but I think this is still a pretty good chase. You have to decide. I intentionally did not do this because we were doing it with chat and just see how many you guys came up with. If you're doing this at home, you don't have a chat that's going to give you a random number of obstacles. So one of the things you would do at the beginning is decide the scope, how many obstacles there are. Part of that is like how much of this session's like brain space and time do you want to devote to the chase?
And another part too is like how likely do you want sort of the consequence to be, like that the person you're chasing escapes, or in this case that that they take enough damage to be ejected.
That's right. So Philip points out to you should have a plan if the PCs fail forward. We got that at the very beginning. So if you fail to pass the basically the way it's going to play out is everybody tries to deal with an obstacle. If you fail, you take damage, and it moves you to the next one anyway. And if that happens a total of 4 times out of 7, very unlikely given that we only have 7. So actually, you know what? Given that we only have 7, I'm going to
Should
change
we do 4-8 ejection?
I'm going to change it from 4-6-8 ejection, which is a total of 18, to 8-10 ejection.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
It's still going to do the same amount of damage, but now you get ejected sooner. So if you fail 3 times, you get sent to the astral plane. Also, it's a rule of 3s.
Yes. Also, you could hypothetically have obstacles that have consequences.
Actually, let's do 6-12 ejection. Because it's still exactly the same thing if they fail twice, but it feels more dire. It's like, what?
12,
It's 12d6?
Yeah. And you could have obstacles that have like more consequences embedded in them or other things like that going on, but this is a more straightforward way to go about it.
We can also say that the collapsing demiplane does that much like force damage by default, but depending on the obstacle, it might do a different damage type that makes sense, like maybe mental damage from the psychic gem, or
damage is force by default, but could vary depending upon the obstacle itself. Yes.
So we are ready to fail forward. Also, another thing you can do with chases that we're not doing here is chases work well.
Maybe it's bludgeoning damage if you get hit by the statue.
Chases work well when they're fast-paced, and yeah, exactly. And you're going from scene to scene, from obstacle to obstacle. But you can also do something that's more like sometimes called a pursuit. That's a long-term chase where you kind of like chase, you go through the obstacle, then like something else happens and there's like an encounter, and then you do the next obstacle, and the chase is sort of a backdrop for an entire. You could have a chase that's a backdrop for an entire adventure.
Yeah.
Where like.
And the encounter could be like with creatures, or it could be with a hazard that's like much more of a problem than these kinds of things.
And you like step out of the chase and go into an encounter, and then go back to the chase. Like, you could have an entire adventure where there's an evil group of evil archaeologists that are trying to, you are racing each other. It's not even one that's pursuing the other to see who can get to the ruins first to explore it. And you want to do it right, and they want to just, like, explode their way through and destroy things and just steal whatever relics they can find. And so, like, in those cases, the points would represent who can get there first, and you could have encounters that are happening in between each day. So chases can happen on the macro or the micro. In most cases, they're on the micro, and you're just going obstacle to obstacle right away, fast-paced, rapid fire.
But the general concept of you were trying to either reach something or avoid being caught by something.
Yes.
And you have there are obstacles that are along the way.
That's right. So we've built the obstacles.
It's been posted in the workshop.
We've posted it in the workshop just in case you're not. Oh yeah, what
and there's
size
guidelines
is this?
Here, yeah.
The size of this is between short and medium. Short is 6 obstacles, about 10 to 20 minutes of game time. Medium is 8 obstacles, about 15 to 25 minutes of game time. We are 7 obstacles, so we're between exactly hybrid between short and medium. So I'm gonna put a link to tiny.cc/arcademart. That is where the chase has been posted. And yeah, there you can have shortcuts and split paths where it's like, oh, I found a shortcut that goes around, or oh, which of these 2 directions do we want to go? We didn't do that, but we can. The cards, having cards for a flowchart also helps that. And the way you would do that is just sort of normally with this one, everything's collapsing, so just when they get to the next obstacle, we'll flip it over and let people know what it is. But when they have multiple paths, you might let them see one card away, where it's like, okay, you could either go to this one or that one. Do you want to deal with the falling statue, or like that psychic ooze that you might remember from earlier in the adventure when you were going through the Demiplane? It was not collapsing. Now you might have to convince it. So the chase ends when the pursuer reaches the same obstacle as the pursued, if you're pursuing someone. They generally lead to a combat encounter or other scene. But it's less clear when to end it otherwise. But in this case, it ends when we escape the Demiplane, having come across all 7 of the obstacles. It talks about multiple types of chases, like chasing down someone, running away, beating the clock. That's what we're doing, getting through before a certain amount of time passes. Such as if trying to outrun a natural disaster. It was right in there. Competitive chase is the one I was talking about. There was a race to a location. And, yeah, so when you're running the chase, this section, Game Master Guide mentioned visual aids, like I mentioned before. It mentions what to do if the PCs get stuck, where this one is just going to kind of force you forward because the whole area collapses when you take damage. And then it gives some sample obstacles, which we do not need because we're in a Demiplane. All right, so that's it. We've done it. Now, let's figure out what our next build a workshop is.
Shall we go ahead and say goodbye to YouTube first?
Yes, but you can start typing in chat what the episode should be, and we're going to do a bye to YouTube and keep going. So, bye YouTube. See you next time.
Bye!